The congregation must choose between hypocrisy and church discipline. It will be one or the other. You cannot have neither. You will have either hypocrisy or you will have church discipline. It is possible to have both, but we don't need to go there in this talk. Mike McKinley once observed to me that it's easier to look holy than to be holy. It's easier to look holy than to be holy. And I think that's true for us as individuals. It's true for us in our churches too. Friends, hypocrisy doesn't have to involve self-conscious deception, because we can be self-deceived. We can claim to be following Christ honestly and be wrong. If we say we're serving Christ when we're really serving our sin. So church discipline is all the ways we teach each other. It's formative discipline, like what's happening right now, and corrective discipline, where you see and you confront someone on an idea or a behavior. In corrective discipline, it can go all the way to the stage that we see in Matthew 18 or 1 Corinthians 5 of excommunication, of putting someone outside of the fellowship of the local church, not to damn them to hell, but to plead with them, with the church as a whole, that they would repent and return to following Christ and live up to the profession with their lives that they're making with their lips. Friends, the challenging words of 1 Corinthians 11 show us that the Lord's Supper regularly forces this question on us. Church discipline is what we do when we say only baptized believers should come to take the Lord's Supper. Church discipline is the antidote God has given us to hypocrisy. So if you want to begin leading your church to patrol its distinctness through the world, you've got to use the biblical practice of church discipline. And you'll definitely find some challenges in it. You need to make sure that you have a thought-through practice of church membership, a culture of committed love. It's only in that context that the practice of discipline makes sense. I mean, you can hardly expect somebody to care about being excluded from something they don't really know they're included in. You have to teach people what membership in the local church means. My fellow Christians, this is ultimately about God's name. Considering that should make us careful. Unrepentant sin that we allow in our congregation not only hurts the individual in sin and the church as a whole, it misrepresents God. We sang of Him earlier as holy. We're not going to live that perfectly in this life, but do we live it really? Are our lives repeated examples of self-sacrificial, moving in this way, loving in this way, in order to obey the Lord and to bless others? We read in Romans 2:24, the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you. We don't want to see God's name blasphemed because of us. But friends, that's what Christian hypocrisy does. How many times have you run into a non-Christian, maybe an Uber driver here this week already? You start to share the gospel and they object about all the hypocrites that there are in the church. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that objection. And the thing is, that objection is kind of right. It's true experientially, it's true theologically, it's just not an appropriate excuse. Brothers and sisters, hypocrisy is very at home in the world. It should not be in the church. But friends, I know that as a congregation, we have to choose this kind of holiness. We have to be like Jesus, going to be that shepherd out away from the flock to the straying sheep to bring him back. You'll notice when he does, he rejoices over it more than over the 99 that went astray. Thanks, Jason. I think of people in our own church that have been excluded, that have been the subject of public discipline, and how they've repented and come back. I think of Patrick, I think of Woody, I think of Mono. I could keep going. Wonderful examples of God working through the loving, hard work of a congregation to love. Teach your congregation. They must choose between hypocrisy. You'll tolerate the hypocrisy as a member of your church, as part of what you're advertising about God, or you won't. You have to choose between hypocrisy or church discipline. Number 7.